Hello there, it's CeeCee here. Welcome back to my channel. So last week I doodled with circles and dots, and this week I'm using lines and dashes. I am slowly building my collection of doodles and patterns on little watercolor cards that I hooked up through a ring binder. Very simple, very basic, but it really does come in handy. And also it forces you to think of different ways to use a particular element. For instance, lines. There are so many ways to use lines. Before I went through the exercise with the circles last week, I hadn't realized the potential of just one single element. So for this painting, I really wanted to keep it simple. Is it simple? Yeah, I guess it is simple. In the end, I always wanted to keep it more simple than the final product, but I just get carried away, and that's okay. It's fun. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. So I started with organic shapes. They're not circles, they're not squares, they're just misshapen. And I'm dropping in some neutral colors. I have Titan Buff, Payne's Gray, Titan Buff, Payne's Gray, and Crimson. Is it Crimson? No, quinacridone Magenta. And of course, I will squeeze in that gold in there in many places. It's the pale gold, but regardless, all the supplies will be listed in the description of the video. And I just need to reiterate again, if you're watching on a mobile device, you just have to click on that little gray arrow right underneath the view of like the window of the video, and that will expand the description, and just scroll down until you see the supplies. If you're watching on a computer, you just have to click on show more, and that will also expand the description. It was fun working with these shapes. I tried to keep them as wet as possible, or as wet as long as possible, so that I could drop in the darker Payne's Gray. And that one here at the top, I had to re-wet so that I wouldn't have too much of those hard or blooms or hard edges that I didn't want. And there is the Quin Magenta. I think it works well with these two colors. I was hesitant, but I kind of like the look. At some point I noticed that I had a dot of Payne's Gray that splashed by error, so I decided to splash some more. So splatters of Payne's Gray, and then I also took that color to add contrast to the painting by adding these three shapes. However, this is a very dark color, so it's very easy to get carried away. I didn't want those shapes to be too heavy for the lighter elements in the background. I think I did okay with that. I added some details around that, this outline, this gold outline, but I'm looking at the painting now and I don't like these. I must have noticed while I was doing them because I didn't do too many, but I did too many. It's just those few are too many for me. I mean, they're there, it doesn't matter, but I wish I hadn't done them. I wish I'd kept, like, maybe instead of doing clusters of circles, I could have done just like that one, like just this one alone and not, you know, doing clusters. But hey, they're there, they're fine, they're just having fun like we all are inside our homes. All right, so I wanted to create kind of like a ribbon running through these shapes, and I wanted to fill in that ribbon with lines. Of course, I'm going to erase that pencil line, but I didn't trust myself to just go at it without having traced something, because the lines are going to be straight-ish, and so it's very difficult to get them not looking like disorderly. I don't know if it's the right word, but anyways, so I traced the ribbon, and you'll notice that I'm missing some footage because I changed my mind at the end. I did not, because the way I traced it, the ribbon stops like 3/4 of the way down, but I ended up continuing all the way down, so you'll see at the end. So here's what I mean by using or lines or dashes. I guess these are lines because they would be long dashes. So I just went straight up and down and stayed between the lines. And I'm going to talk about this because I get the comment all the time, my lines are not straight, guys. There's still some people arguing with me. They are not. Especially at the bottom, because if you do a continuous line like this and you break it and then you try to pick it up again to continue, oh, that's really tough, especially if you're using like a gel pen like I'm using. There's always kind of like a little excess of ink at the end of a line, and so it's already too late to have this beautiful like continuous line. But it doesn't matter to me. I'm just saying that's what it is. So this part here, those long lines, they're very tricky to do, but I love the effect. And the idea with the ribbon, I wanted the ribbon to go, was it under and over out of that gold circle. So, of course, you're not seeing the first part because I skipped that one. But yeah, that's what I did. I'm using this template to trace again some circles, and then using a thicker marker, I'm again using lines to create the shape, but this time the lines are further apart from each other. And I like that. I like to create a variety of thickness of lines. I think it makes everything so interesting. And that was fun too. But I have to tell you, I prefer using dots over lines, although I do like my lines. I think after having done this painting, I was trying really hard not to do my dots. Because I really, really like doing that. So I guess my preference, if I had to say who's my favorite between the two, I kind of like both combined. I mean, this painting will attest to it anyways. Although the shapes are not circles, they're still blobs. And I still have splatters, which kind of like nourished my love for dots. Although they're not like perfect dots or circles, they're still there. And I did like a faux stitching line on these darker shapes, So these are my dashes, and I use a white gel pen for that. You see what I'm talking about, that ribbon stops in the middle of that shape, and I did not like that. So I will work on that. You'll see it at the end. Now I decided to do a grid pattern with the gold, which is something else I think I could have done in black, but I wanted to experiment. I wanted to experiment and see how it would look. So I used a small brush and just did a grid pattern, but I made sure that the lines didn't stop at the same place everywhere. So it's kind of like it's almost as if you were doing a grid pattern and then using an eraser to erase some of those lines here and there, you know. Yeah, that was fun. Oh gosh, I can't get enough of that gold. I think you all know this by now. When I use this kind of grid formation, when I use a pen, I think I will show you next week because it's quite fun. I've sort of created a pattern with that grid, but I didn't want to do it with a brush because it would have been too difficult, but I sort of round the intersections. I'll show you next week. It's hard to explain. I'm not good at explaining things anyways. But I just added some random dots over some of where the lines were intersecting on that grid. But I didn't want to fill it in because it would have been too much. And the reflection is so good. So there's the painting. Again, that line is not complete. The ribbon is not complete, but I will fix that in a minute. And I erase the lines, of course, the pencil lines. Caution. I know I probably don't have to tell you that, but I had to remind myself. Make sure your painting is dry before you erase your lines. There's a small area, I think, where I messed up. There it is. You see, I continued the line, but you can see the break right next to the grid. It was very difficult I tried to make it look as if it's on purpose, but it was very difficult to do. But anyways, I still love the painting. It was fun to experiment. I like the color combo as well. So I hope you've enjoyed that as well. Do try this. Lines and dashes. A lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching. I want to say a huge thank you to my awesome patrons who has continued to support me on Patreon. And in return, they get exclusive videos for their support. So grateful for them, grateful for you all. And I will see you soon.